Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Martin Starr, who plays Roman on the Starz comedy series Party Down. I love the show so much, and I was so excited for it to come back. And I know there had been fits and starts, obviously, since the show went off the air. So when it finally came together that you guys were going to do a reunion show, I guess what was like for you? What was the first thing you did to get like back into Roman's headspace? Did you like rewatch the show, or like how did you kind of like go about it?
Yeah, for sure. After a 13-year break, you got to go back and revisit it and see how it was. I mean, the one thing that I feel like, fortunately, we all seem to do well is fall back into these characters, for better or worse. um, but in rewatching this latest season, that was my biggest concern. I think is that it would feel like the show in all of the ways. But reading John's scripts, you knew that the writing was back to those familiar voices, and I feel like we fortunately brought those words off the page pretty damn well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, I love these new episodes so much. And I think what you're saying is true. Like a lot of times, especially I think when we see these, when you see a revival, there's like maybe it's not as good as you remember, right? Or like, the idea of it is like in your head, you're like, oh, that show was so funny. I can't wait. And then it comes back and you're like a little disappointed. But here, it definitely is not. The writing is so good and you guys are so awesome, all of you as these characters. I guess though, was that like, I mean, were you concerned about that? I guess a little bit, like just in general, like, oh, I hope like we can do this, like that we are able to like step back into this.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about anyone else. I was always worried just that I would that I would be able to, that it would feel the same, and that the show would have the same energy when you're watching it. But I feel like, especially with the kind of social evolution that's occurred over the last 13 years. There are new kind of uh, just things to be aware of. I think in the way that we, going back and revisiting the first two seasons, there are things that we did then that we couldn't do now, that wouldn't feel appropriate to do now. Not that they necessarily were appropriate then, but in general, I feel like comedy. I don't know. It's hard to like put restrictions on comedy if it's coming from a good place. And I feel like we were always coming from a good place, but there were things that maybe wouldn't translate well into the way that people watch things today, and the feelings that are involved in general, and in just being a human being. I guess the things that we're aware of certainly have changed in the last 13 years, but it still feels like the same old show. I feel like the characters haven't changed for better or worse. Some are stuck in the same rut that they were always in, and others kind of get to evolve, and we get to see Megan and Jane's characters kind of take new shape, and some of the same characters fall back into old relationships. Me and Ryan get to play in the same way that we got to the first two seasons, and that's so fun. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons I love coming to work, is just to get to go and kind of go to war with Ryan every time, and we just get to have a really good time. We
It's
laugh
so
the
yeah,
day away.
it's so funny. And I think your energies are so great. And obviously the characters are so well matched. And especially like with the industry stuff and how the industry has evolved over the last like 13 years, just in general, like the commentary on that I found like really funny this season too, where it's like obviously like the superhero movies and like the sci-fi stuff that like is not hard sci-fi like Roman likes, but like is very prevalent. I just thought all of that was really funny this season. Very good.
Yeah, it fits so perfect too that it happened to Ryan. like that it really just puts us always at polar opposites. John does such a good job writing the show that we're just lucky to get to be a part of the stories that he's making up in his head.
Yeah, he's great. It's incredibly well written. The other one of the things I love about Roman this season too is you have this. I found the relationship, or like the friendship, like obviously not like maybe like whatever, like a relationship with Lucy. I found like really fun, and like how they kind of have the same qualities, and at least in their, I don't know, like her determined, like her the way she approaches like food, right, is like similar, I think, maybe to like how Roman approaches like writing or sci-fi a little bit. And I love that relationship too. And obviously Zoe coming in as a new character, so I guess like and a new performer with your cast there. So like, how is that like kind of like working with her and like kind of creating their relationship, because it does thread through the whole season in a really nice way, I think.
Yeah, there's a nice budding friendship that goes on there that well, it was hard to predict really at the beginning, but you see these little seeds get planted of kind of beautiful start to something that I don't know where it'll go. Should we, have another season come upon us? But it'd be nice to see what happens in a lot of those relationships. I'd also love to see Ken Jeong come back and Steven Weber, and there were so many people that it'd be fun to see what they've been up to as well in the world of this show. But yeah, it was so great to have Zoe on board, and she and I became fast friends, much like we do in the show, just in a very different way.
Do you have like, I love the episode, the luau episode. I found like a really great one for you where you guys are all on mushrooms. I think that's really funny. And I think the way Roman reacts to that and the paranoia is amazing. And I was rewatching that one this morning actually. And like when he gets pulled into the tent for the interrogation, that is just like really funny stuff. And the way you're not like just the Jeff Daniels runner, I just found all of that like really fun. Was that like, I guess like just stupidly maybe, but like how do you play someone, like how do you like authentically, I guess, play someone on mushrooms but not make it seem cheesy? Because I think you do a really good, all of the cast do a good job with that. But I guess like I just found it like for Roman specifically and you, I was like, this is like really good. Like it's just like really believable, I guess.
A lot of practice. That's the trick to doing mushrooms on camera, is practicing a lot off camera. Yeah, I mean that episode was really fun to dig into, because it certainly is a challenge to make it still seem real and true to that experience, while me never having had that kind of paranoia when I've if let's say I had done mushrooms in my life. um but yeah, I mean, also having Bobby there, like just having such strong talented people around makes that the exploration of that kind of an experience really fun. Making that paranoia as funny and real as possible. And then Ken, I've said this before but I'll say it again, Ken Marino as a director naturally always makes you feel like you're on mushrooms no matter what. So it lent itself very well. His directing style makes everyone feel like they're on mushrooms.
You had, so this is the second time he directed, right? He directed in the I think in season 2, I think, right? Or if I'm maybe I'm wrong, but I know he directed in the first run, and then
It was
obviously this
this.
episode. So like,
Yeah,
how did he evolve? I guess as a director, is it still the same? Like you're saying,
it always feels like you're on mushrooms if he's directing.
great. You had in that episode, you also have a great line that I was just like the way Roman says Hyundai. I loved, and that was that like
Yeah,
was that like
Hyundai. I think you're pronouncing it improperly.
so I'm saying Hyundai.
Yeah, it's Hyundai. Thank you so much.
Hyundai. So now that I'm assuming that like all of this stuff is in the script. Like I don't, do you guys? It doesn't seem like you improvise a lot, and or do you like kind of like?
No,
No.
I said it very weird. And
Oh, you did.
yeah, that yeah, I don't think that was in the script. I think it just said I think it just said Hyundai. Yeah, we just have fun. Yeah, some things you get to play with off the page, and a lot of other things are present there. We certainly do play around and find things, especially in this third season. We had more time. In the first 2 seasons, I think we anticipated and tried to improvise more, but ultimately didn't need to. And I've been very lucky of many times in my career, and this is certainly one of those times where the writing is so good, veering off too much is doing it disservice. And we still are. I think it's such a talented group of people that we still like to play a little bit, even if you improvise something and then you come back to the written line. It just kind of makes it fresh again. But all that, pretty much everything that's in the show is all written by the very talented John Enbaum.
Yeah, it's incredible, incredible stuff. I was thinking like you do a great thing with Roman, where I feel like man, he's such a he's like so mad, obviously, and so aggrieved, like constantly. But I do think like it comes from, yeah, like he has like not a heart of gold, but I do think it's like his like defense mechanism, right? Like certainly. And I guess like
Yeah.
when you're playing him, do you have to consciously like balance like when you like like you said, I'm sure it's in the writing, but in your performance, I guess, like, are you balancing like how much of a prick you're making, like some of the deliveries and stuff, or like whatever, knowing like that he does have that like soft interior, let's say.
I think it always, from the beginning, always felt like a love-hate relationship, even though it was pretty catty. Like the way that our character Ryan and I, our dynamic was initially, and maybe instinctively too, mostly because of the writing, but the way that we just dealt with each other was rather aggressive, and that was fun. It's such a fun world to play in. Is like these people who are miserable, they're in a job they don't love, they're not doing the things that they want to be doing. Of course they're going to take it out on the people around them. Your environment becomes a punching bag, and that's what our relationship really was for each other. But I think at the heart of it, as it is in a lot of those type relationships that develop, there's something underlying it, whether they remind you of someone, um, like whatever it is that's underneath this. It's not so simple as just I hate them. And I always wanted to play the full um, uh, um, context, the full um, uh, dimension, like multi-dimensional. That's not the word to use. Like, but just like a multifaceted relationship. The emotion isn't so simple as one note, and certainly I got to play with that in the first two seasons. But here again, even with Lucy, like watching the way that Roman and Lucy interact with each other and how that develops, like it's not one note. It's and a lot of that is John being a talented writer, um, and giving us the opportunity to play.
Yeah, I love the other thing I love about Roman this is obviously like his vlog, and then it being the online the fascist fans that the blog generates. I found like a funny bit as well, I guess, right? Or you know, the right I like that a lot. And I guess like I thought that was an interesting twist. I guess like did you think about like, yeah, like how like I guess like how he is like in the 13, like you said, like he hasn't really changed that much in, let's say, the 13 years. But did you think about how him getting older made him change? I guess I don't know. I just was like, it kind of seems like he's not softened a bit, but like I don't know. I just feel like he, you know, playing someone who has aged that much, like in real time. Like obviously, like I'm a lot different now than I was 13 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you are too. But I guess like, did you think of him at all like that, or like I don't know, like you were saying, like you're like, how did you think of what he was doing for the last 13 years, and specifically like how he reacted to, you know, culture that we've seen, basically.
I mean that's such a complicated thing. I feel like your standards lower when you want the same thing 13 years later. Um, the how you get it and how you achieve it maybe evolves, and you don't have this like pristine desire for it to be done in a certain way, in this like kind of purist way. And so there is something there. It does feel something like there's a desperation
Mm-hmm.
for Roman to just achieve in any way, on any level, through by any means, and while perpetually continuing to judge other people as though their means aren't valid, especially in those moments with Tyrell, like, oh, your little dance videos, yeah, great, good for you, do your dance videos, but still like like pissed that he's going to get a better car, like he'll be more successful and have more financial wealth than someone who's been striving his whole life and is now 13 years older in this timeline, and much older than this young kid who's just joined our group of party down cater waiters. And like I don't know. I really liked Tyrell in particular in this new season because I think it's such a fun area to delve into that I don't think has been done in this way yet. To really kind of it, I just think it shows it honestly through the lens of people, like getting into middle-aged people like, what the fuck is going on with the next generation? I will never understand it. And like putting that deeply into these stories is really fun. And yet, like, what is like, this is a method that's become totally viable for people to create wealth and you know, stand on their own two legs at a very young age. Like, you know, middle schoolers and teenagers are making more money than my dad made in his whole lifetime, but they make it in a year. And like, it's just, you know, even adjusting for inflation, like the way that you can succeed is so different now. And whose standards are, you know, should you judge yourself by? Other people's? Like, we're all just figuring out what life is, and it's a fun little experiment that our show kind of gets to talk about.
And I also love that you're right, like about the age thing, like him being a younger member, obviously, of the group, and like how you don't feel middle aged until you're like presented with somebody who is much younger than you, let's say, right? And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like, oh no, I'm old. I'm the old one. Wait, I'm old. I'm not cool anymore,
Oh
right?
my
Like that
god.
kind of thing.
No.
Like you're like, oh no. You mentioned like before, like how you would love to do, more of this. I mean, like I think these episodes like are amazingly good, so it would be great to see more. And it seemed like such a task to get to more, obviously, to get to these episodes after the show went off the air and the
Yeah.
ensuing 13 years like we're talking about. So I guess, like, do you have hopes that there would be a fourth season? And obviously, like, that could maybe bring Lizzie back in, and like, like you said, like these other actors who had like moved through the show in the earlier seasons. Like, is that would like it seems like you'd obviously be interested in that, but do you have actually hopes that that will happen?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the only down note that occurred in the process of getting the show made again was that Lizzie couldn't make it back. That was really disheartening to me at the time. I think now it kind of proves to be, you know, as long as we actually get to come back and do a fourth season, I think it'll prove to actually be more valuable in the storyline. To have kind of veered away and introduced new characters and had Jen Garner become a part of the show, which has been an amazing addition. And but the to come back and revisit that old love, that old relationship, and those characters kind of coming back again, Adam and Lizzie, would be so fun to explore again. And obviously, I've known Lizzie since we were in third grade.
Oh,
So yeah, so it literally was a childhood friend that I was like, why aren't you coming back to play with us? I don't know. I don't understand why you didn't come back to camp this summer. But you know, I think the biggest hurdle that we have to jump is timing, is making sure everybody's available, because um, you know, the beauty of it and the trick of it is everyone kind of having found such success outside of the show, and to bring everybody back just becomes difficult to find the time where everyone is available with such a big cast like this. But you know, knock on wood, we can make it happen, because you know, we would all love to do it. I think it would be much more difficult to do if we didn't all love it so much, but everybody, as you can see, nobody said no. Lizzie had, unfortunately, obligations that she couldn't stray from, but nobody didn't want to come back and be a part of this. So that won't be an issue. It's really
right.
just figuring out whether, you know, how we can make the time to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
Hopefully,
like,
and stars being willing to to pay
right.
for it.
No,
Um,
that's fine. Yeah, hopefully they will, because it was so good. It's funny you mentioned, like, obviously, like the relationship between, and we have to wrap up here, but the relationship between Lizzie and Adam's characters is so great. But I love in the first episode you have that, I'm gonna hack the lineup, but you're just basically like, no one gives a fuck. They barely know each other, and I just thought
yeah,
that was
yeah.
so funny, and the way you deliver that is so good. So I mean, like, it's nice to hear you say in real life that you seem like very interested in their relationship, at least
Oh my
on
god.
screen. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things to not laugh during was listening to Jane and Megan talk about how they look like brother and sister, and they went on forever and ever. I don't even know if I don't know if, I forget if they used it in the episode or if it's just in the like laugh in the like gag reel that we did at the end of the season, just for us. But maybe that's out in public too. But at the end of, like, they went on for like 5 minutes, maybe not quite that long, but a long time. Like, we were all just sitting there, and it was so funny you couldn't not laugh. And I had already left the scene. I was just like, it wasn't written. They just kept going. And I was like, all right, I'm going to leave now. And then I just came back and I was like, you guys got to go. We've wrapped up. Like the bus boys have all left. You need to get the fuck out. And like it's just so fun to play again. And Jane and Megan are so funny together. And I don't know. I would do this forever. I would just listen to them be funny on a loop in my life forever.
Yeah, I watch it too. We have to talk about Martin Starr, obviously. Starr Party Down. You can watch all the episodes on Starz, and hopefully we'll be back for a fourth season at some point. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.
Hope so. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.